Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of Country Music, Loretta Lynn.
Loretta Lynn was an undisputed icon who did not just sing country music. She redefined it with brutal and rare honesty. She was not a star manufactured by Hollywood. She was a chronicler documenting the silent struggles of mountain women from battles for birth control through the band song The Pill to responding to betrayal with verbal threats in Fist, City. Yet Loretta's glittering career and massive success were built upon a foundation of deep personal tragedy. The central theme of her life was her 48-year relationship with her husband Oliver Doolittle Lynn, or Mooney. This marriage was the epicenter of conflict, a chaotic love filled with physical violence, continuous infidelity, and alcoholism. The greatest irony is that this physically abusive man was the only person who truly believed in her talent and forced her onto the stage. Loretta Lynn's life story is a testament to the resilience born out of adversity and how one woman found her revolutionary voice within her own personal storm.
I probably think it would have been the hard times when I had the 4 kids growing up, when I was growing up with them. That would probably be the highlight. It wasn't hard when a girl gets married that young.
Crucially, Lynn's greatest source of artistic inspiration was also the origin of her profound pain. This marriage was not simply an antagonistic relationship between hero and villain, but a toxic symbiosis. Initial economic and emotional dependence on Doolittle created pressure, but it was that very pressure, violent marriage infidelity, and the need for survival that compelled her to write some of her most powerful social statements. Loretta Lynn's career can therefore be seen as a radical personal act of resistance, unintentionally funded and driven by the very man she was resisting.
I wouldn't know.
Loretta Webb was born on the 14th of April 1932 in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky, a remote Appalachian community. Her family life was typical of the working poor. Her father, Melvin Theodore Ted Webb, was a coal miner and subsistence farmer. This very impoverished upbringing later inspired her signature song Coal Miner's Daughter.
And it happened on a hill in Butcher Hollow.
Life in Butcher Hollow was a relentless struggle for survival, and her father later died at age 52 after suffering from a stroke and battling black lung disease. This challenging environment led to a very early transition into adulthood. Loretta Webb married Oliver Vanetta Lynn Jr., or Doolittle, on the 10th of January 1948. She was just 15 years old while Doolittle was 21. Loretta later admitted that she was so naive at that age, she did not even know where babies came from until it happened. This early marriage immediately burdened the teenager with the crushing responsibilities of being a wife and a young mother. Soon after marrying Loretta and Doolittle moved to Custer, Washington in September 1948. In the short span of a few years, Loretta gave birth to 4 children in quick succession: Betty Sue in 1948, Jack Benny in 1949, Clara Marie in 1952, and Ernest Ray in 1953. Becoming a mother of 4 before the age of 20, while living in difficult economic conditions in Washington, was a grueling ordeal that wore down the young woman. She often felt lonely and received little help from her husband. It was while doing household chores that she frequently sang as an unconscious effort to soothe her stressed life and lull her children to sleep. The true catalyst for Loretta pursuing professional music came from this paradoxical source. In 1953, Doolittle Lynn bought her a Harmony acoustic guitar for $17 from Sears. This act was deeply symbolic as it represented her potential doorway to freedom. Doolittle actively pushed her to sing, recognizing that she was just as good or better than most of the girls who were singing and making money, so he urged, "Let us make us some money." Loretta, who was self-taught on guitar, began writing music. Her lyrics were not idealized love songs, like much of the country music of the era, but raw, factual stories reflecting the struggles of Appalachian women, early motherhood, betrayal, and economic stress. Doolittle's encouragement revealed his own complex nature, shifting from an abusive husband to an authoritative manager. His insistence on Loretta's singing may have stemmed from a belief in her talent, but it was also a way for him to transform his wife's talent into an income source, allowing him to escape hard labor. This action of buying her a guitar became a calculated, profitable investment.
That's what you look like to me.
Having established her role as a mother and finding her voice through music in Washington State, Loretta and Doolittle decided to take her music directly to the public, executing a historic do-it-yourself or DIY campaign. They self-pressed her debut single, I'm a Honky Tonk Girl, in 1960, a candid honky-tonk ballad about the heartache of a deserted woman. This promotional campaign became legendary in country music history, described by critics as astonishing. The couple packed the singles into their car and drove across the United States from Los Angeles toward Nashville. They stopped at every small radio station they could find, persuading programmers to play Loretta's record, adopting a grassroots approach. The journey was grueling and financially barren. At one point, upon reaching Nashville, they had no money for a hotel and had to sleep in their car parked across the street from the Ryman Auditorium, the then home of the Grand Ole Opry. The detail of Doolittle buying her a box of donuts the next morning cemented Loretta's image as an authentic working-class woman, undaunted by hardship despite the underlying reality of their violent relationship. The exhaustive efforts of self-promotion paid off handsomely. By the summer of 1960, I'm a Honky Tonk Girl peaked at number 14 on the Billboard Country chart. This success quickly led to invitations to perform on major shows, culminating in an invitation to the Grand Ole Opry. The moment Loretta stepped onto the Opry stage for the first time was a historical turning point, signifying the industry's acceptance of the unassuming country girl. She later recalled tapping her foot nervously throughout the performance. She was so anxious. This successful debut led to a recording contract with Decca Records, where she began her legendary collaboration with producer Owen Bradley. The DIY campaign, however, romanticized, proved that without the impetus of survival and Doolittle's forceful drive, Loretta might not have undertaken that arduous cross-country trip. This turbulent marriage became an unwitting creative force, propelling her from Butcher Hollow to Nashville. Loretta's successful debut at the Opry was the beginning of her career, but it was far from the end of her personal conflict. The 48-year relationship with Oliver Lynn was rife with chaos and contradictions. Doolittle Lynn, known by his nicknames Mooney for his affinity for moonshine and dew, was widely known to be hot-tempered, an alcoholic, fiercely jealous, and physically abusive. These issues began almost immediately in their marriage, including him abandoning Loretta when she was pregnant with their first child. He even admitted to sleeping with her brother's wife. Their turbulent reality was often captured in her music, such as the 1967 #1 hit Do Not Come Home, Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind, an obvious reference to Mooney's dissolute habits. However, Loretta Lynn never accepted the role of a passive victim. She was famous for her fierce declaration that every time Dew hit me, he got hit back twice. The accounts of the domestic violence were recounted with startling honesty, describing skirmishes where she once emptied a skillet of creamed corn over his head, and another time she hit him so hard she heard teeth hitting the floor. Yet she always maintained that their love was genuine, though chaotic, and endlessly forgiving. She believed that Doolittle provided her with a sense of security and was her safety net. Amidst this marital discord, a profound and legendary friendship bloomed between Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline, starting in 1961. They met after Patsy Cline was recovering from a near-fatal car accident, and Loretta performed one of Patsy's songs on the radio, dedicating it to her. Patsy quickly became Loretta's mentor and the sister she had never had. Patsy took Loretta under her wing, teaching her how to handle the music industry, how to dress for the stage, and most importantly, how to stand up for herself and demand her worth. When certain envious peers tried to prevent Loretta from performing at the Opry, Patsy personally intervened, putting an end to the antagonism, and famously taught Loretta to tell her manager, "Those boys are your managers, not your bosses." Patsy also helped the self-described naive Loretta discover her sexuality. Loretta admitted that after 15 years of marriage, she never achieved an orgasm until the night she wore the provocative lingerie Patsy gifted her. This crucial friendship was tragically cut short when Patsy Cline died in a 1963 plane crash. Patsy's passing was a devastating blow, robbing Loretta of her closest friend and vital protector during her vulnerable early career years. Following Patsy's death, Loretta faced a cruel reality of the industry, the loss of ownership over some of her biggest hit songs. She had signed a contract with Surefire Music Co. in 1966, a contract that assigned the song copyrights to the company. It would take her an agonizing 30 years of legal struggle to reclaim the ownership of her musical legacy. The timing of this copyright struggle, not long after Patsy's death, suggests that the absence of her protective mentor left Loretta more vulnerable and exploitable in the calculated business environment of Nashville. The period following Patsy Cline's death and the copyright struggle marked Loretta Lynn's uncompromising commitment to honesty in her music. This transition began in 1966 with the release of the song Dear Uncle Sam, which candidly described a wife's anguish at losing her husband in the Vietnam War. At a time when country artists were typically expected to align themselves politically with the war effort, her track offered a stark personal truth about the costs of conflict, making it politically astonishing and perceived by some as too straightforward. Also, in 1966, at the age of 34, Loretta became a grandmother. Her eldest daughter, Betty Sue, gave birth to a child just 11 months after Loretta herself had given birth to her youngest children, the twins Peggy and Patsy. Becoming a grandmother at such a young age was a public shock in Nashville, but this detail further solidified Loretta's authenticity as a real woman whose life experiences defied the idealized narratives usually presented in music. As her family grew larger and needed more space, Loretta and Doolittle inadvertently ended up in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. She immediately fell in love with the large abandoned plantation house nestled on a hill overlooking a waterfall and an old gristmill. The catch to buying the beautiful house was that the owner insisted they purchase the entire tract of land, which included the small town of Hurricane Mills, covering about 3,500 acres. Loretta Lynn, the daughter of a coal miner, suddenly became the proud owner of a town. This ranch later became Loretta Lynn's Ranch, a major tourist attraction and a permanent legacy. During this same era, the song You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man reached #1, becoming a monumental hit, and the first chart topper written and performed by a female country artist that was a direct warning to another woman who had attempted to seduce Doolittle. With her challenging lyrics and fierce vocal delivery, Loretta Lynn rapidly became a new feminist icon. She dared to vocalize anger, possessiveness, and ownership over her marriage. Although Loretta never politically identified as a feminist, her music was revolutionary, reflecting the raw experiences and internal strength of ordinary working women who were typically ignored in mainstream country music. Her music validated their anger and their refusal to be passive. Doolittle, meanwhile, continued his pattern of infidelity and alcoholism. Following one instance where Doolittle coldly told her, "I do not love you anymore," Loretta decided to strike back with language in public, not just with private action. Loretta responded with the song Fist City in 1968. The lyrics delivered a direct threat to the other woman: "You better close your face and stay out of my way if you do not want to go to Fist City." This song was banned by many radio stations for being too aggressive and confrontational, but the censorship only cemented her unique status. It garnered overwhelming support from millions of betrayed women who found their own rage articulated through Loretta's fearless voice. Loretta often reiterated the lasting impact of Patsy Cline. This friendship provided more than just moral support, it gave her the permission to tell her story as raw and exposed as it needed to be. The strength to write controversial and banned songs like Fist City and The Pill stemmed partly from the boldness Patsy had instilled in her: stand up for yourself. The fact that Loretta Lynn had approximately 14 songs banned during her career speaks volumes. The consistent theme in these banned songs was not obscenity, but challenging social rules and empowering women. Being censored ultimately made her more unique and popular, as it proved she was singing about the harsh realities of women's lives, realities that traditional Nashville preferred to deny. The 1,970 seconds marked the peak of Loretta Lynn's fame and official recognition. She was the first woman to receive a certified gold album from the RIA for her 1,967 record, Don't Come Home A-Drinkin' With Lovin' On Your Mind. In 1972, she made history again by becoming the first woman to win the CMA Entertainer of the Year award. Perhaps her most significant industry recognition came when the Academy of Country Music, ACM, honored her as the Artist of the Decade for the 1,970 seconds, a title she remains the only woman to hold to this day. In 1979, Loretta Lynn's image became truly mainstream when she was selected as the national spokesperson for Crisco shortening. Her advertisements often depicted traditional Southern cooking featuring Doolittle and her grandchildren enjoying her famous pies and fried chicken. She would always use the familiar tagline, "Crisco will do you proud every time." This major commercial contract represented a public reconciliation between her dramatic private life and her public image. Audiences accepted her honesty as part of her down-home, authentic personality, which allowed her to achieve mainstream commercial success while retaining her strong, feisty identity. This mainstream recognition inevitably led to Hollywood interest. In 1980, the film Coal Miner's Daughter, based on her 1976 autobiography, was released. Loretta personally selected Sissy Spacek to play her after seeing a photograph of the actress, even though Spacek was unfamiliar with her music and initially tried to refuse the role. The turning point for Spacek came when she later heard the song Coal Miner's Daughter playing on a classic radio station, causing her to reconsider and accept the destiny of the role. The filming process was intensely serious, with Spacek performing all the singing herself and completely immersing herself in Lynn's mannerisms, a transformation that deeply moved Loretta. As for Doolittle, Tommy Lee Jones, who played him, spent time with the real Doolittle Lynn, even learning how to operate a bulldozer from him to prepare for the role. Doolittle was reportedly angry at the actor who was portraying him. However, during production, Jones was arrested for driving under the influence and resisting arrest. Upon hearing the news, the real Doolittle Lynn is famously reported to have exclaimed, "The guy is crazy, he is perfect," acknowledging Loretta's inspired casting choice. The film became a massive success, receiving 7 Academy Award nominations, and Sissy Spacek took home the Oscar for Best Actress. After achieving cinematic fame, Loretta retreated to her Hurricane Mills Ranch in Tennessee. The ranch quickly grew beyond a simple home to become a massive tourist destination and a major Tennessee attraction, complete with a museum, campgrounds, and a replica of her childhood Butcher Hollow home. A surprising extension of the ranch's legacy began in 1982 when she agreed to allow a motorcycle event to take place on her land, transforming it into the host site for the largest amateur motocross race of its kind in the United States, a legacy that continues unexpectedly today. However, this phase of quiet retreat was soon shattered. In July 1984, Loretta Lynn faced the greatest sorrow of her life. Her son Jack Benny Lynn, age 34, drowned. Jack Benny, who worked as a blacksmith and trained horses at Hurricane Mills, attempted to ford the notoriously dangerous Duck River on horseback and tragically drowned. At the time of the tragedy, Loretta was hospitalized, recovering from exhaustion after an arduous tour schedule. It fell to Doolittle to break the devastating news to her. She was completely broken by the loss, asserting that this was a pain that would never truly heal. In his memory, she later recorded a cover of Willie Nelson's song "You Were Always on My Mind" as a way to say that she still thought of Jack. As Loretta grieved, Doolittle Lynn's own health declined severely, mainly due to his alcoholism and related medical problems. Loretta stepped back from or significantly reduced her career activities to dedicate herself fully to caring for him. Oliver Doolin passed away in August 1996 at the age of 69, ending their tempestuous 48-year marriage. The dual tragedies of losing her son and then her volatile husband completely redefined Loretta's later life. She shifted from a fighting partner to a dedicated caregiver, and finally, she had to learn how to live alone, a profoundly difficult adjustment after a lifetime spent in a relationship defined by chaos, yet impossible to sever. In the wake of Doolittle's passing, Loretta Lynn was left to grapple with the profound paradox of their life together. She consistently affirmed that Doolittle, the man who caused her the most pain and inflicted violence, was also the one who gave her the crucial courage to stand on stage and ultimately launch her career. This relationship, defined by its violent passion and complex forgiveness, was more than a personal tragedy. It became an inexhaustible creative wellspring where love, pain, jealousy, and reconciliation merged to forge a musical legacy unlike any other. Following her husband's death, Loretta entered a new era of personal and creative independence. In 2004, at the age of 72, Lynn experienced a spectacular career revival when she collaborated with Jack White of the White Stripes, a young garage, rock star, and devoted admirer. The resulting album Van Leer Rose served as the ultimate proof of Loretta's adaptability and enduring personal strength. Notably, the album was written entirely by Loretta Lynn herself, a rare occurrence in her long career which signaled her complete artistic autonomy. Jack White infused her traditional country sound with his signature raw, visceral garage rock production. The album became a smash success, peaking at number 24 on the Billboard 200 and number 2 on the Country Albums chart, making it her most successful crossover album up to that point. It bridged 2 generations of listeners and earned her a Grammy, solidifying her status as a generational connector. Loretta Lynn passed away peacefully in her sleep in October 2022 at the age of 90 at her home in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. Her legacy is not merely measured by her 16 #1 hit singles and 60 albums. Her true legacy is her enduring symbol of resilience, her commitment to telling the unvarnished truth, and her revolutionary ability to transform personal pain into an anthem of empowerment for women worldwide, forever cementing her as the undisputed queen of country music.